And now we interrupt, disrupt, and crash this station.
The man fighting for peace, his legacy, truth in a sea of stupid.
Filtered for your sarcastic enjoyment, Ghost Getter.
Hello guys, I'm going to show you something that we're going to do part 2 here. But first I'm going to read you something. Well, I'm going to read you something here in a minute, but that's not going to be first. I'm going to read you something that I thought is pretty compelling. But first I'm going to tell you something. Because I don't think that anybody's really going to believe what I'm saying throughout this entire time. There are going to be a lot of skeptics. Some of you will not be. Some of you will be. But I don't think it really matters what I say, because people are not going to believe it either way. Now, a few years ago, I had videos about, and of course, radio shows. I've been researching this and talking about it and looking into it for the last 15 years. But recently, over the last year or two, when I made YouTube videos, I had a few people that criticize what I say, and some don't believe it. Now, you have every right to believe whatever you want and say whatever you want. But, you know, there are those in past videos where I've said something, and no matter what I proved, no matter what videos I shown, no matter what evidence I had out there, they did not believe it. They refused to believe it. They argued it. That is up to you. It's your decision. But this is a YouTube video where I'm going to show you something compelling. There's evidence out there. It is up to you to decide whether you want to follow it or not. I choose not to. And I refuse to. Now, I know since childbirth, probably, I've always had this ability where I stood out. Maybe because I had my goofy ways or something like that. But there's always been something that happened that was different from a lot of people. Now, there are those out there that probably have things happen where they don't talk about. That doesn't happen to anybody else. I'm sure of it. There were a lot of things that I assumed that happened to me that didn't happen to a lot of people. When I used to be in the paranormal, there were a whole stream of people that had the same thing happen to them. And I started to look at it and say, this is not happening to me. I don't see it the way you do. Things don't happen to me the way it happens to you. I've always had people tell me since I was younger that I was different. Most of them, girls, young ladies, and women would say that I was different. And the reason they would say this is because, and not in a bad way, probably because they can pick up on things a little better than guys can. They can pick up on, I guess, a person's spirit, aura, whatever you call it, emotion. They know if you're after something or not. They know if you're full of crap or not. I wasn't really good at a lot of what guys were doing. And to be honest with you, deep down, I didn't really care. There's been criticism because they would say, well, he's this way or he's that way, or no, I was just goofy. But I find there were so many things that happened in my life that I just was not interested in what most guys were interested in, because I seen things a little bit differently in the world, and I noticed things beyond the veil a little bit more than most, if not all, guys could. But there were females that could pick this up because they don't deal with physical as much as guys do. I guess you could say I could pick up things. I was a little more sensitive than most people. Maybe because I was more interested in what you couldn't see rather than what you could see. And sometimes people were there. You can't say, there are those out there say, well, maybe this man had a mental problem. No, because as I got older, I started to find things in person on camera and audio and video and witnesses that were standing right there with me when it happened. So there was proof right there, because people started to see it the more they hung out with me, like I said, like I was saying. So I was more attracted to what goes on the inside than the outside. And so when I say that I was not good at, things like that, most people were interested in. I didn't spend a lot of time focusing on what guys were trying to pick up. I'm not talking spiritual. And I was bored with certain things like cars and, just a typical thing. I was not really interested growing up in sports the way people were. So I had basically the background of music and what it does to people, the emotional side of it and how it can manipulate you. I was interested in backmasking since I was, 10, and subliminal messages since I was 10, and just the tricks of the trade and mind games and how the mind worked and things like that. So the older I got, the more I started to see stuff that other people didn't, and it was a little harder to make me decide on, or to make me move one way or the other. And I got more interested in hanging around girls because they were more interested in what happens, like me, mentally interested in things that you couldn't see. They were more either afraid of it or very intrigued by it. So, you don't realize, most guys don't realize that physical is not powerful to females as you think. Most guys think that if they do something physically, it's really, really going to manipulate them, but no. Some it might, but for the most part, they're more interested in the mental and the spiritual and the emotional more than anything. And I think that's what, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I attracted people more that way than anything else. And so when I was not very good at doing things the way guys were. I would have habits of them saying, you're different than everyone I've ever met, male-wise, because I wasn't into what most guys were. Cars, just trying to get, they were just money, whatever the case is. I was always interested in music and spiritual side of things, I guess. So I had things that would happen to me that just didn't happen to normal people. I had visions since I was growing up where I would think people would have dreams, but I had them when I was wide awake. Just strange things, and you can check out my last videos where I talk about this sort of thing. But then I would always ask for certain things by God or spiritually, and then later on I'd get the answer. I never have asked God for stupid things. I never prayed for stupid things. Things out of the ordinary, like make me a millionaire or give me a mansion or, I want to drive a Ferrari. I've never asked for things like that because those things to me were always, that you just don't ask for things that are just unrealistic. Maybe you deserve it, maybe you don't, but I don't think there were, things like that belong to me. And I learned my lesson a long time ago, and one of these days I will tell you why, because I was dumb enough to ask for something when I was younger. And as I got older, my wish came true in detail, but I wasn't good at handling it the right way. Maybe I was too young, inexperienced, and immature was probably the thing. Some of you understand what I'm saying. Some of you probably don't. But you'll get it here. The longer you know me, of course, everyone's always saying, the more I know you, the longer I know you, the more I notice things I've never noticed before. The more I start to see things I've never seen before. The more people start to say that, okay, I thought you were full of it, what you were saying in the beginning, but the longer I hung out with you, I started to see stuff that, now I believe you. Those sort of things. So, anyway, here's a quick story I'm going to show you. Let me show you something here. Let's see if I can get this bigger. And I'll tell you a backstory. Okay, now this, I've shown this video before, but this is a little easier. Now I'm on this program here. I can really show you easier what this thing is, the whole thing is about. And this might end up scaring the living crap out of you. This is one of the videos that I've taken when I lived in this house in 1999. My eyes were open to a lot of things. I went through this situation with this problems with this house for a full year. Probably longer, maybe a year and a half. And I had several times, probably hundreds of times, I would nearly tape as much as I could 24 hours a day with this video camera on top this cabinet, this TV cabinet. There's a TV below it, so I don't know what you call it. Entertainment center. This wood thing here. And it would always point this way. Now I had it in the same direction constantly. Now I have taped and taped and taped. And I have so many tapes where nothing happened. But then I would have tapes where things would happen that I still can't explain to this day. One of them which there was a piece of paper or something white that was on this table behind the couch. And as I was recording, nobody was home. And something flew off this table and hit the floor. It looked like a piece of paper, but I'm still not sure. But we've checked around here when we got home. We couldn't find anything that was on the floor that was white. We could never figure it out. So just odd things like that. Now I have recorded in this spot several hundred times, and during this day and even after, and I still cannot capture what I've caught this day. Okay. Now, there's a face in this mirror, in this curio cabinet. It's right here. Eyes, nose, mouth, whatever. As many times as I've recorded on this video, in this spot, I have never caught this ever again. Not this face-looking thing. Okay. Now I'm going to play this video. Now, in this doorway, I was in another room and I was about to leave. I think I was getting ready for work or whatever. And I was in this room behind this cabinet. There's an office. I call my safe place like a safe room because I'll explain later, but nothing would go into that room. It would happen outside the room, all around it, but nothing would ever go in that room. Later on, by the time I moved out of this house, I knew it was demonic. Whatever was in this house was demonic, and I'm going to tell you why here in a second. Okay. I'm going to play the video. In this doorway, you'll see a shadow go by before a white shirt goes by. And the white shirt, that goes into the other room from this room is me going to that room. But you'll see a shadow go by before I go in. Now, it couldn't have been me because shadows don't appear before you show up. I mean, it's not like, you know, your shadow is behind, you know, doesn't follow you. It's always usually in front of you or whatever, but it just doesn't follow you behind you like that. But you'll see what I'm talking about. The voice in there, I could never figure out as well because I was in another room, so I don't know what the hell that was. But what I was looking for was a razor. Couldn't find it. And when I went into the other room, that's what I was looking for. I remember that's what I was looking for. But I'm thinking the voice says took it to work with him, but somebody told me they think it says taking a walk with him. Now, I don't know what that means, but listen and look for the shadow. I'll show you right in this doorway. There goes the shadow. There goes me. Okay. You heard. I have to turn it up a little bit more. I'll play it again. Somebody says taking a walk with him. I say took it to work with him. I don't know. But look, shadow goes by. Right there. Then I go by. Okay? And you'll see the face right here in the mirror. So, anyway. To make this bigger so you can see it. Shadow goes by, I go by. Face right there. Okay, could be anything. But like I said the last time I recorded in this spot, which I done at night, I done in the day, I done in the morning, I done all day long. I never captured that ever again in the entire year I was there. So, it is what it is. Here's my point. One day I came home and I was angry. I was mad at work for some strange reason. I don't know why. I can't remember to this day. This isn't the first time this happened. One time I came home, I was in that safe room, and I remember saying, hearing some kind of noise or something, and I said, you know, you always make the same noises all the time. You're always doing the same thing. Can't you come up with something different for a change instead of the same thing? Because it's really getting on my nerves. It's boring. And as soon as I said that, I heard a chair scoot across the floor in the kitchen, which was right about here where the table was. And I remember saying, well, that was different, and I think I'll shut up now. But one time I came home, and I was not having it. It was at night, so it was dark. I didn't capture it on video, which is odd. I didn't have it running, which is odd. I was standing in this spot right behind this cabinet was, and I come out, and I heard some noises upstairs. This is like a loft. It doesn't have a door. This is a set of stairs that go into a room. There's a small room up there that's connected, and a big long closet, which we always heard the door close upstairs when nobody was there, but there was nobody up there. Nobody was home except me that day. And there is no human that can make this noise, ever. Okay, I came home and I heard this noise upstairs, like always, whatever. And I was already mad. I was not in a good mood. So, this is what I'm talking about connecting things and picking stuff up. And, you know, it is very, very easy for me to cause things to happen or for things to happen around me. So, you know, I got to be careful what I do, what I say, what I mean in my own heart. I mean, it's even hard for me. I can't even watch ghost shows like Ghost Adventures or anything to criticize, because then I'll start having issues. So I don't even watch it anymore. I used to watch it to just dissect it and use it on my show to show their evidence that they're wrong. But I can't even do it anymore because I have problems. So anyway, I was standing there, and I heard noise upstairs. And I got mad. Now, there are things I can use to ward them off, but I wasn't challenging, I was just mad. I grabbed a boombox that had a cassette boombox that had a sermon from one of the churches I used to go to that was coming from that room. I took it to these steps, and I put the boombox on the stairs, and I cranked it as loud as I could go. I put in a video in the video cassette. This was 1999, so, you know, we had this often. I had a VHS. I put in the player, and I turned on the TV and cranked the TV up as loud as it could go. And I'm just lost myself. Anyway, I put it in the video in the cassette, and I got from that room as well. And I still have the tapes to this day. It was a telecast from the church that I was in years ago, before it separated. And it was Mr. Armstrong on the tape, and it was another minister that was having a sermon, and I cranked them both up. And I walked back over here to this spot behind the curio cabinet, looking straight at the steps, and I said, okay, you want to play your games, I'll play mine. How do you like that? I said, you like that? You like making noises? How about me making noises? How's that make you feel? Whatever. I don't remember what I said word for word, but I was being an a-hole. And as soon as I said that, I heard this loud, groaning, growling type noise. I've never heard any animal or any human make that noise ever in my lifetime. Nothing in my life I have ever heard like that. It was loud, and it echoed, and it sounded horrifying. And as soon as I heard it, this voice in the back of my head said, you better get on your knees and pray. And that's exactly what I did. Got on my knees right there. I started praying for, God to get rid of it, and this and that. And I was going on and on and on. And as soon as I opened my right eye or left eye, I saw something white. It looked like tissue paper or some kind of cloth. And it moved fast. It went from this area in the house up the steps, and it went boom, boom, like that. From here, boom, boom, up the steps. And it moved quick. And as soon as it moved that fast up the steps, like boom, boom, like that, it stopped. So I don't know what that was, and I'm not going to ask, but I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. So, but I have never seen anything like that before in my life, and I will probably never see anything like that again. But, after that time, I learned, I made my mistakes here and there afterwards, but I learned what's in this house is not human, and what's going on beyond the veil isn't dead people. That was, to me, to this day, in my mind, that's probably the closest I've ever been to something not very good. Probably the closest I've ever been. Probably, in God's eyes, is probably the same. Probably, you were probably a second away from paying a huge price because of your ignorance of running your mouth. But it went away. And after that point, after that day, I've had a few things here and there, but nothing as bad as I ever had that day and beforehand. I mean, I have seen shadows on the wall that were human outlines. I've heard people talking two people talking right outside the bathroom when I was in the restroom. Nobody was home. I've heard one person talking outside the restroom. I don't recognize the voice because it was in a Texas accent while people were outside. So I was the only one inside the house. You name it, I've had happen to that. So my point is, there are things out there, and I see them, I know them, and I know what's going on, and I'm not stupid. And when I say that these people are doing this, and those people are doing that, and this is going on, that's going on, I'm not kidding. I don't say it at the top of my head, and I do my research. When I say people are into certain things, and I say that there are people out there doing mass deceptions for certain reasons, and they are on the wrong side, there are people literally out there playing a white knight, angels of light, just to get you to follow them. Satan is not one of those things that is going to spit up pea soup and turn into a dragon to literally scare the heck out of you because he knows you'd run away from him. He's either going to be nice to you, manipulate you, try to do all kinds of things to attract you. He's going to attract you. The sole purpose is to get you away from God and keep you from the truth. That's the whole purpose. To take you away as far as he can, take people down with him as much as he can. That's the purpose. Not to spit up pea soup and spin their head around. Why would he want to scare you away? He wants to grab you to take you from something else. You know, typical people don't go to choose rotten food. Rotten, would you choose a rotten apple or a fresh apple? So he's going to act like a fresh apple instead of a rotten one because people are not attracted to rotten things. That's just common sense. This is why they act like children. This is why they act in certain ways to manipulate you, because if they act horribly in a household when they're haunting it, the first thing you're going to do is grab God to get rid of it. So they act like children. This is why most people say, oh, it's just a little girl. I'll keep her at my house. It doesn't bother me at all. And your New Age religions, because it's light and consciousness and love and understanding. But yet, in the background, they tell you, oh, we're the Aryan race. And all we care about is dominating and killing children. Hence, Margaret Sanger, and I'll get into that later and talk about that. But first, we're going to talk about Blavatsky and where this started. And all it takes is one. All it takes is one conversation and one piece of evidence. I have several, but this is one piece of evidence I think you should know before you take this path of Madame Blavatsky. Now, to save time, I'm going to give you one piece of, read you something, one piece of interesting, damning evidence, I guess you could say. I have so many things that I've uncovered from this over the years, but this is one of the things, the beginning of it, and so many people have followed this woman. So many people, even if you don't call her evil, there are people out there that have created systems because of this lady. Adolf Hitler followed her. Jim Jones followed her. Charles Manson followed her ways. So on and so forth. Even today in Hollywood and so on and so forth. Now, long time ago I talked about, I'm not sure if it's a video or radio show, how Gwyneth Paltrow, when she was married to Chris Martin from Coldplay, and they split up. There were so many reports out there, they split up, conscious uncoupling, because he didn't believe in her ways and she wasn't teaching their children. He wasn't teaching her children. He didn't believe in her New Age system. He didn't like it. So she's one of the big New Agers in Hollywood right now. So you can read about it, look it up, whatever. But here's something interesting. I'm going to show you. I'll leave the link on the bottom of the screen so you can read it. But for now, I'm going to show you this. And this comes from Stockholm University. It's a journal that talks about Blavatsky's Luciferian, the Satanist Luciferian in Theosophy and the feminist implications. And what it does is looks at the contradictions of her books that she wrote, where she claims she doesn't believe in God or Lucifer and things like that, but she contradicts herself. And I'm going to read you one of the important parts, and I'll leave this journal link on the video at the bottom. But I'll read you some important parts I think were very compelling. And like I said earlier, all it takes is just one piece of evidence. That's it. This is, and this is, I was just posting this up here, and I'll talk about it later, how Alice Bailey follows her and what she's all about, and how it goes down the pike all the way up to today. And we have some horrible people that use this stuff because of her, and follow her direction because of her. This is a woman that believed in the Aryan race. And you know all about that with Hitler and so on and so forth. And it says, already in Isis Unveiled, which was one of her books, Blavatsky discussed the devil in some detail. Her chapter about the figure here is, however, mostly a sarcastic expose of Per Faxnil 2012. I think this is a guy that wrote it or something. Beliefs held by Christians concerning the devil, which she found singularly ridiculous. No celebration of the figure worth mentioning is to be found, and this person, whoever it is that did this journal, was pretty, didn't take sides. No celebration of the figure worth mentioning is to be found. Blavatsky, 1877 to 1988, Volume 2, page 473 through 528 of her Isis Unveiled, her book. The only tendency in that direction is a short encapsulation, half a page, in a 56-page chapter of a Kabbalistic, which is Madonna's following, view of Satan as a blind agnostic force that is necessary for the vitality, development, and vigor of the principle of good. Principle of good. Volume 2, page 480 through 500. Satan is also mentioned in a handful of other places in this book, outside the chapter dedicated to him, but in most instances we find are variations of phrasings like, the existence of the devil is a fiction, which no theology is able to demonstrate. Volume 1, page 472. In 11 years between this work and her celebrated The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky changed her views. Those words right there. Changed her views on several topics. Earlier, she dismissed the concept of reincarnation, but now she, to staunchly advocate it. Hammer, 1999, 222 through 227. Satan, too, is seen in an entirely different way. She now affords him 2 chapters ahead of 1, instead of 1. And she becomes explicitly positive, a positive symbol. Positive symbol. Blavatsky argues Satan or Lucifer or the devil, as she often uses the name interchangeably, Volume 2, 510 through 3, brought mankind spiritual wisdom and is the spiritual intellectual enlightenment and freedom of thought. Volume 2, 162. Like the Romantics, she draws a parallel between Satan and Prometheus. Volume 2, page 244. Satan's function as a cultural hero is in the same spirit as the Greek Titan is evident in the Bible, she claims, provided it is read correctly. It is but natural even from the dead letter standpoint to view Satan, while the text will admittedly begin to make more sense the deeper one penetrates into Blavatsky's symbolic world. They are still characterized by it is but natural even from the dead letter point to view Satan as the serpent of Genesis, as the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. For it is he who was the harbinger of light, bright, radiant, Lucifer, who opened the eyes of the automaton created by Jehovah, as alleged, and he who was the first to whisper, in the day ye eat, therefore you shall, as Eliam, knowing good and evil, or can only be regarded in the light of a savior, an adversary to Jehovah, the personating spirit. He still remains an esoteric truth, that ever-loving messenger, the angel, the seraphim, the cherubim, who both knew well and loved still more, who conferred on the us spiritual instead of physical immortality, the latter of the kind of static immortality that would have transformed man into undying wandering Jew. No racism there at all. Volume 2, 243. In accordance with Blavatsky's usage and out of stylistic concern of variety, I also use these different names interchangeably. Blavatsky, the Satanist, 213. This is a Gnostic, satanic counter-reading of Genesis 3 that is strangely at odds with Blavatsky over cosmology elsewhere. She clearly states there is no creator God and no opposition between God and Satan, both of which are but powers within man himself, each useful in its own right. Blavatsky 389, 478, 513. All this is a contradiction in the passage quoted above. Contradiction. Contradicts itself. Where God created man, Satan freed him from the shackles of his demerge, and both are oddly much like sentient personages with an independent existence. The description of events in Genesis, Blavatsky says, needs to be interpreted allegorically in order for the core of true events to be discerned behind the veils of mythical ornamentation or something like that. There can be no doubt that Blavatsky views the figure of Satan in this narrative as unequivocally good force, saying he's a good force. She believed he was a good guy, and God is the bad guy, a helper, a friend of mankind. Satan, once he ceases to be viewed in the superstitious, dogmatic, unphilosophical spirit of churches, grows into grandiose image of one who made of terrestrial a divine man, who gave him throughout the long cycle and Malfa Kappa law of spirit of life, and made him free from sin, of ignorance, hence of death. Now, she contradicts herself in this. But he didn't exist, according to her. It's not true. But yet, not saying he's true or not, the point is, she's saying this character is good. And basically, he's all that. He's the one that did everything. He's the one that's the light, the right, the one that brings intelligence to man, blah, 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 blah. Spirit of wisdom, spiritual wisdom, spirit of intellectual enlightenment, which is something the New Agers uses a lot. Intellectual enlightenment, freedom of thought, something they always use all the time. Blah, 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 blah. This is what they say. Now, I found this so many times in so many areas, different things that she says were totally outrageous. Now, whether you believe it or not, It's up to you. But what this woman is telling people is that the devil isn't a bad person or a bad spirit. That he's actually good for people, why God is not. This is where they come up with the idea of ghosts. This is where ghost hunters come up with the idea. People wonder where this ghost thing came from. It came from this. It came from the Genesis where they said you will not die, you'll become gods forever. This is what Satan told Adam and Eve. You will die and become like gods. You will never, So this is where they got the ghost part from, because later in the Bible it says several times that ghosts don't exist. Man dies and does not come back from the dead, basically. There's several passages. But one interesting passage that has come up so many times, and I've said it so many times before, and this has come from several different passages, okay? Now, you want to talk about what she's saying is right. Bible's been out longer than she's been alive, okay? Just look at it that way. This God's word has been around longer than this woman. So the idea of she's the all-knowing of witchcraft. Now, everybody knows she's into witchcraft, spiritualism, mediumship, conjuring things, all that stuff. She's into all that. And people after her are into that. There's people in the New Age. They're into spiritualism. They're into witchcraft. They're into, the list goes on and on and on. Doing things they shouldn't be doing. And it says in several passages. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay. Did I get the right one? Okay. Chronicles 2:33-6. He sacrificed his children in the fire of the valley of Bimnam, practiced divination and witchcraft, sought omens, and consulted mediums and spirits. He did much evil in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger. God did not like mediumships, divination tools, witchcraft, omens, all that stuff, psychics, anything else. Do not turn, 31, Leviticus 19:31. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spirits, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. You will be defiled by spirits and mediums. Leviticus 26, I will set my face against you who turns to mediums, spirits, to prostitutes themselves by following them. I will cut them off from their people. Leviticus 20:27. A man or woman who is a medium or spiritist among you must be put to death. You are to stone them. Their blood will be on their own heads. They were told not to do that. Revelation 18:23. The light of the lamp will never shine on you again. The voice of bridegroom and bride will never be heard you again. Your merchants, the world's important people, by your magic spell all the nations were led astray. Here he goes about magic spells and whatnot. Let me see if there's... Okay. Genesis 5:19-20. The acts of the flesh are obvious. Sexual immorality, impurity, and debauchery. 20. Idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, and dissensions, factions. So on and so forth. So, my point is, these words were out long before Blavatsky started saying things. So she tried to keep you from seeing these words, and I don't see her saying anything about those. Oh, I could be wrong. Isaiah 47. Now listen, you lover of pleasure, lounging in security, saying to yourself, I am there none beside me. I will never be a widow or suffer lost children. Here we go. They will come upon you in full measure in spite of your sorceries and potent spells. You have trusted in your wickedness. No one sees me. Your wisdom and knowledge misled you. You to say to yourself, I am there and none beside me. So on and so forth. Mentions it again over and over again. My point is, and there's so much of this, it all started with her. Started with this woman. And the list goes down and down, on and on and on, of people that have followed her. Even from what I've heard, and I got to look more into it and find it, the founder of the Church of Christ, which was a student of hers, was also into that, and even said that there were mistakes in the Bible, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and was going to change them to fix the mistakes. How can there be mistakes in God's Word? You know? But that's another time, another story I'll talk about later on. But my point is, it started with this woman. And that's a piece of evidence. That's just an article where he was looking into what she was looking into what this woman was saying at the time. And so many people have followed her down the road, and look what happens. And look what's been happening. Millions of people have died over the years because of this belief system. All it takes is one. That's all it takes. And you can say, well, that's them. They followed her. They're at fault. And yeah, they are at fault. But the concept started with her. Her ideas of we need one super race and all this other stuff. He even used a swastika back then in Tibet, but it was in reverse. And when Hitler came up, he flipped it over and did it in his own eyes because he said it was the sign of evil. And he was into the occult. So even that right there sets a bad example because of her words. And then even people in the paranormal today use her ideas religiously as if it was a good thing. And that's pretty scary, if you ask me. But anyway, I'll get more into it later. I know this is long, but I had to show you part 2 and everything and how it is. And I hope I get this video right. I always think about what I'm going to say, but I don't really get it until as soon as I sit down. I can't think. If I did it in a radio show format, it would be much easier, and maybe that's what I should do so you can understand better. But anyway, that's proof in the pudding right there. Enough. If you look more into it, this woman, the more you'll start to see this is not very good stuff. This is not looking good for you at all, basically. Even though some say it is, it's not. Anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. Until next time, when we do a part 3, thanks for watching. See ya.